A lot of people don't know where the myth of zombies originated from, and maybe I'll make like a YouTube short or something about that, but most of the myths surrounding them aren't really that scary, let's be real. Except this one. This is the myth of Rolangs, the undead of the Himalayas. The term Ro in Tibetan or Mongolian means corpse, and Lang means to rise up. So what are Rolangs? The myth of Rolangs has existed for quite a long time, at least centuries, and there is sort of a definitive lore for them. A Rolang is a dead human corpse that can become a Rolang under two conditions. The first is by a kind of sorcerer who will perform a ritual to create a Rolang, and then will kill the Rolang right away. This is because the tongue of the Rolang holds immense power and can be used for making strength 2 potions. No, I'm actually not sure what it's used for. But anyway, the second and much more scary way a Rolang is created is by a Gedon spirit, I think it is. It's G-D-O-N. Gedon spirit, I don't know. It's an evil external spiritual force, which reanimates the corpse. Rolangs can be very difficult to kill, and we'll talk about why later, but they will attempt to infect living humans simply by touching them on the head, which will kill them instantly and make them reanimated into another Rolang. They do have some serious disadvantages though. First off, they can't move very well. And I have 2 theories for why, because we don't really know exactly why from the folklore. But the first is the possibility of rigor mortis, which is when the joints stiffen after death, although apparently rigor mortis only lasts for a few days. My other theory is since because they are no longer alive and aren't producing heat, and they probably stand still for long periods of time, Rolangs are probably half frozen. Because of their stiff bodies, Rolangs are often unable to bend at the waist, and this has led to many Tibetan buildings having short doorways, allowing them to be safe from being attacked in their homes. The scariest part about Rolangs to me is the fact that they can't speak. They communicate only by opening their mouth and moving their tongue, which is probably the scariest thing I've ever heard. Can you imagine like walking alone in the snow and it's like dark, and then you see a corpse and it starts walking towards you and it's like licking its lips. One of my favorite parts about this legend though is that there are 5 levels of Rolangs, and essentially each level is a little bit more difficult. First off, we have Ulpagslangs, I don't know how to say that, or Skin Zombie. The second one is Kraglangs, or Blood Zombie. The third one is Shalangs, or Flesh Zombie. The fourth one is Ruslangs, or Bone Zombie, and the fifth one is Ermalangs, or Mole Zombie. Listen, I tried to figure out how to pronounce these. Now, Rolangs cannot be killed, obviously, because they're already dead, but you can make them fall over, which is to say you can end the reanimation. Because the Skin Zombie, or Ilpagslang, to fall over, you only need to break the skin. This on its own doesn't really sound that crazy, but it is a frozen being, so it might be a little bit more difficult to break the skin, but still pretty easy, because this is the first level. To kill the Kraglang, or Blood Zombie, you need to make it bleed. This might sound pretty easy, but I'm not sure if this requires you to heat it up, because if something is frozen, their blood isn't going to flow as quickly. Although it doesn't really say anything about that in any of the sources that I could find, so I'm not really entirely sure, but that's just my theory. I just feel like if someone is frozen solid, it wouldn't really count as bleeding, but maybe it would. The Shalang, or Flesh Zombie, requires a portion of the skin to be removed. It doesn't have to be an entire limb, but maybe you'd want to do that just to be safe. As I said before, this could prove pretty difficult if the creature is frozen. The Ruslang, or Bone Zombie, must have a fractured bone, which could make it take a ton of blunt force trauma to take out. However, the most difficult by far is the Ermalang, I think, I don't know how to say it, or Mole Zombie. Now, if you follow the logic of the previous ones, you might be guessing you have to hit a small mole on its body. It has some specific mole that you have to hit, which could be literally anywhere on its body, meaning that it is nearly invulnerable. There's like a part of this coming up the whole time. Oh no, dude. There are some stories of Rolang epidemics where Rolangs infect an entire village in a single night. The village is either evacuated or the Rolangs must be made to fall over. As I said before, all it has to do is touch you on the forehead and you go down. You become one of them. So what does any of this have to do with the Himalayan mountain range? The Himalayas are a massive mountain range, the 6th largest in the world, apparently, which I thought it was #1. But I guess I'm stupid. As I said before, the Rolang myth exists in Tibetan culture, and between Tibet and Nepal is where the Himalayas are, specifically Mount Everest. Now, a lot of people have died on Mount Everest, and most of their bodies have not been recovered. It's just very, very difficult to take somebody's body down that's that high up. There's a great video by Implement that talks about one of these expeditions. It doesn't really mention Rolangs or anything, but it is a very good video, and it just talks about how some of these bodies cannot be recovered or even found in some cases for a long time, if ever. The most interesting thing about bodies on Mount Everest, though, is that they don't tend to decompose. Because they're so high up and the air is so thin, there's basically no bacteria, meaning the bodies up there can be decades, maybe even longer old, and still be in basically perfect condition. But there's been reports of some bodies staying completely intact, as if the person is asleep, while close by another body will have completely decomposed, as if somehow the body is being kept from decomposing. These occurrences leave me wondering if the legend of Rollings isn't just a legend, and that if the bodies ever begin to thaw, this myth may become a reality. Anyways, I've been Gilly Guy. Thank you for watching the second video on my channel. This one is just a shorter one on a legend that I find pretty interesting, but be sure to smash that like button. Face reveal at 100,000 subs or whatever. See you guys.